But effectively, they will join all the dots to the point whereby buyer and seller have provisionally agreed. So the seller will whittle through a number of buyers so they get to a point where they actually, no, we think this guy's got the best offer. And then at that point, that's when we're on the buy side, our client will come in and say, yeah, we found this business that we want to buy. Can you come in and do your due diligence on it? So we come in typically nearer to the probably the end. So I mean, actual lead advisory processes can go on for over a
Years.
year. For that
Yeah.
point of actually finding the buyer, agreeing the terms, it
Mm,
can go on for ages. Whereas I guess the benefit maybe what we do is we work really on kind of defined timescales. So
fine.
at this point, we'll be brought in. I say, right, we've got an exclusivity whereby no one else can bid for this
Do the
business.
work.
We've got
Yeah.
got 6 weeks for you to do your work.
Quick.
Um,
Go.
Quick to go, get
No
going. Exactly.
pressure.
No
Get it
pressure.
done.
Exactly. It's
Yeah.
always, as of anything, deadlines are always flexible. And yeah, as I'm sure you guys
Do you feel
appreciate.
like does that lead to kind of like really long hours? And because a lot of people think that corporate finance will be like crazy hours in the office. Is it some
It's
peaks and is it troughs?
peaks and troughs. Yeah,
Oh,
I
yeah.
think I think it's definitely you have to accept it is
Mm,
there is the bar does raise a bit
yeah.
because you're working towards deadlines that are a little bit more hard and fast than like say an audit or an accounts deadline.
Mm,
These things are generally like they often they are kind of random and arbitrary, but
yeah.
we're a client and we're in client services and you
Mm,
kind of have to work towards that.
yeah.
So the hours definitely are longer, but what I would say is, and again, this being from my experience only, the time goes a lot quicker because you're
Yeah.
actually quite enjoying your work and you've, when I think back to my audit and accounting days, I kind of felt like I was, questioning some of why you're doing stuff because you're not really that engaged with it. Whereas with
Mm,
this work, everything really matters and is really important. It
yeah.
does mean you're a little bit, time goes quicker, a bit more motivated. But
Hmm.
like, it would be fair to say that there are some times where it is difficult, and
Yeah.
you work with difficult clients. So certainly, like if you are looking for a 9 to 5:30, a 9 to 6:30 job, I'd say corporate finance in general probably isn't for you because I would on average it's probably I don't know 9 to 7 sometimes it's 5:30 like any job if you're done you're done you go you don't stay
Yeah.
there for the sake of it
Yeah.
but when it's busy and you're nearing a deadline
Mm,
it can be 10 11 so definitely bear that in mind depending on what
can be quite
what
demanding.
you're in yeah
Yeah.
definitely so sorry, I think I went off a tangent there, but effectively, yeah. So we come in middle to end,
Mm,
um, and then depending on sometimes the buyer won't have a lead advisor, and if it's like private equity, and we effectively are the kind of their only advisor, we will also get involved in the sort of end negotiations, the final bits where they're agreeing, all the terms and the pricing. So I would say with what we do, we do a bit of the sort of due diligence bit in the middle, as well as the kind of assisting in the final negotiations. But again, that kind of varies from transaction to transaction.
hmm. Okay. So like, say in a typical day, what because so say obviously I'm at Michael Page and people are like they know kind of what I do or in general like recruitment or it's like the umbrella term for it. But like day to day, I'll get in, I'll do my emails, I'll organize the team, I'll one-to-ones, I'll all this whatever. Obviously, no one cares about that because corporate finance is the topic and that's the exciting bit. Um, like on a typical day or a typical week, like what without COVID, like would you be traveling or would you be like are there you going to see clients where they are or like do you have a team you manage or like how does it work typically like day to day for you?
I'd say again, it depends on what other people's
Yeah.
backgrounds. It's kind of similar in a way to audit, in the sense of you have your project, well, we call them projects rather than audits, but you have your project team, typically work from the office, but
Yep.
occasionally you go over to meet the target. You'd go over, and sorry, I'm not sure if I mentioned that phrase, but in corporate or when in M&A, the target company is the selling company. So when we're working buy side, the client will be our client who's buying it, and the target will be who they're looking to buy, i.e. the company that's selling. So that's a common word you'll hear. So generally, it's much less travel I found than ever was in audit. Like generally,
Okay.
it's mainly office work.
Hmm.
But occasionally, yeah, you would go for meetings at their site. Just not. It didn't happen often, to be honest. But you would sometimes just to get to know them. But yeah, a lot of your time actually is spent, certainly early years or the early experience you'll have there is spent dealing with the target business. So
Hmm.
I mean, I would say majority of the work I've done is buy side. So I typically will work, I said, on behalf of the client, but working with the target. And a lot of it is really just working, dealing and managing that relationship with the target and trying to
Yeah.
understand their business. And
Makes
again,
sense.
yeah, kind of similar to an audit in that sense that you have your what we call an information request list. You send that out
Mm.
based on the scope of the engagement, so i.e. management accounts, revenue data, that kind of stuff, all the bits of information you'll need to do your work. So the initial bit is really just kind of data analysis, is going through what they've given you, seeing what we can do with it, how to manipulate the data in order to write the report. And then that kind of second stage is actually having discussions with the target, like I said,
Yeah.
kind of what we call Q&A sessions. So that will be through calls. And then the final bit, which is different to what you guys probably are used to, is the actual report writing. So obviously at the end of all of this, we want to produce a
Yeah.
glossy average, maybe, I don't know, 90 to 100 page report, which the buyer or the seller, depending on which side we're on, the buyer will then use to effectively decide whether they want to buy this business or not. So the report writing, I'd kind of compare it to a bit like the case study exam, for those who are doing the ACA. So you're kind of, the writing style is quite similar. It's quite matter of fact. X has gone up by X because of X. We have to be careful what we do in TS, that we don't explicitly say whether you should buy this company or not.
Right.
We imply, we say it in so many words, but we don't want to be
Fully
held
influence.
liable. So
Yeah.
we'll say what are the key risks,
Fine.
what are the key movements, but we don't ever say you should buy this company because we don't
At
want to
Johnny
have it
Gold,
actually
50 million
yeah, exactly. I don't
lawsuit on your hands.
can't quite
Yeah.
afford that. So that's one thing, quite an important skill set, I'd say, in what we
Yeah.
do. Probably a bit different in lead advisory. There's not as much report writing, but then they will have something which is called an IM, an
Yeah.
information memorandum, which is kind of similar to a DD report, but it's a bit more, they can get away with being a bit more sort of, I don't know what the word, like wishy-washy. It's less,
Fluffy.
more fluffy, exactly. So they'll do it for the selling company, and it's a similar vibe, but not quite as
Factual to the point.
factual as
It is what it is.
what we
Yeah.
have to be. Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. And because we are ultimately we are supposed to be objective. We're coming in there, but as I said earlier, you do take a side. If you're on the buy side,
Yeah.
you are going to do what's best for your client.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
if ultimately, what do you want from this? You want them. You're not, if they're going to go ahead with this business, you want to make sure they pay the best price for them.
Yeah.
If you don't want to miss any bits which could knock off the price, which ultimately they will benefit from, but you can't
Yeah.
at the same time. You're not going to make something up to benefit them. It's got to be objective, but you
Yeah.
do work on a side.
Okay.
So yeah.
Cool. I think like that just it's like really in depth and it sounds really interesting to me. It's like I actually want to just retrain and do corporate finance. You can get me a job,
Go for
Johnny.
it.
That'd be
Go
great.
for it. Yeah.
My director's on the call, like, okay, good luck.
Yeah.
I'm rubbish at maths though, so probably it's not gonna work for me. But yeah,
Excel. Okay.
but something that I do love about my job is obviously is speaking to people who are due to qualify, people who qualified maybe a year ago, 2 years ago, in general in their ACA or ACCA. And a lot of the time, a lot of the questions people ask is, I'm training in my ACA, I'm doing audit and accounts. This might not apply to everyone on the call, but just in general, as a general rule, what can I do now to strengthen my CV towards corporate finance? Is there anything I can do to like add value so that when I do qualify or I am qualified, that'll help me get into that space. Obviously, I advise on the larger firm. I advise on going somewhere where you can move internally and putting the feelers out, getting to know people. Quite a lot of people mentioned doing that training, the online. There's a course, I can't remember what it's called now, which obviously I'm at Secretary. I can't remember.
Corporate Finance Institute or
Yeah,
something
cute.
like
That CFI, yes.
CFI.
Is that beneficial for people to do, or does it show an interest, or is it?
I don't. Yeah, I'm trying to think. I
You didn't do it,
personally
did you?
didn't.
No, no.
I think it definitely can't hurt. I
Yeah,
think it looks good. It shows you clearly are committed and you're not just doing it on a whim. I think what's really, I guess the hard part is getting interviews. And once you get the
yeah,
interview, I think then it's really important. You're well read. You know what the job involves because
yeah.
the first question will be is, so what will you be doing day to day? You've got to understand kind of what I went to quite high level, like the stage of transaction, what we do in DD, what depends on lead advisory.
Yeah.
But in terms of that, and I think, anyone can kind of, that's like revising for exam, isn't it? You just got to learn. You got to. They're not going to expect you to know it inside out if you don't do it. The hard part is obviously, well, you need to get the interview in the first place.
Yeah.
I think, because I remember from my experience, because initially I was looking externally, and it was like, well, you need transactional experience to do it, but it's like chicken and the egg, isn't it? Well, I need to get that. Someone's got to take a punt on me, and obviously I got lucky with GT. So I think I guess depends on everyone's situation, but I know even some smaller firms do have like an advisory element to them, a transactional element. So whether you can push to even have a mini secondment, work on one deal, and kind of just I think what employees looking for is just it's almost a tick box, isn't it? Okay, they've got that, and then you get the interview, and then it's kind of down to you to prove yourself. But I think first of all, see if your firm does offer any of that, and try and show that you are committed and you want to give it a try, and you don't need to say
Even
what your
secondment,
motivation. Yes,
or like a week of shadowing,
a month, anything put on your CV. So that I'd recommend. I think just just understanding. I suppose that's the CV.
And knowing what you're going to get yourself into, because equally, like, I think it's almost interesting sometimes to just ask recruiters for job specs of even what I do sometimes is some candidates really want industry and commerce, and they're like, what is that? How do I attain it? What is it? So I'll obviously break down, okay, you have management accounting, you have financial accounting, you have financial control, like all the different elements. And what I'll sometimes do is send them spec of jobs that we're not working on it anymore, that have already been filled. But what it means they can do is look through the day to day. Yeah. What do I need? What don't I have? And compare and contrast. Where are the gaps?
Yeah,
so
exactly.
I think even sometimes, like looking at even jobs online of corporate finance roles, like day to day, what's going to be required of me? Do I have the skill set yet? I could have the skill set, but do I need to do more first? Which is often like, we always say it, but I think a lot of people, because they've done audit for so long, the thought of doing more audit for another year is like, oh my God, like, some people aren't open to it. But if it is for that year to a year and a half, and it could really change the whole career, your whole career choice, like, it is worth it.